All right. I think we live everywhere. Doing another coding challenge tonight. Another easy from LeetCode.com called shortest word distance. Just did this one, so I'm just gonna repeat it. Gonna try to do it again from memory to practice it. So hopefully it goes well. Appreciate y'all joining so far. Probably wait a couple seconds for people to jump in, and then I'll try to start the problem. But yeah, I just be practicing these problems, trying to just stay tight on them for when I do have to interview again. But yeah, this is another easy one. LeetCode.com, shortest word distance. This is a string problem. I do mostly like so far doing integer problems. So hopefully this one will be a little bit interesting and won't take me too long to do. But we'll see how it goes. So appreciate people joining. And without further ado, I'll try to get started on it. So this problem is called shortest word distance, like I said, from LeetCode.com. And the problem goes as such: given an array of strings in word dictionary and two different strings that already exist in the array, word 1 and word 2, return the shortest distance between these two words in the list. And then they give an example here with word dictionary where they have practice makes perfect, coding makes, and then they have word 1 having coding in it, word 2 having practice in it, and the output is 3 because the distance between coding and practice, word 1 and word 2, is 3. So practice 1, 2, 3, from coding 1, 2, 3. So the distance between coding and practice is 3. So that's what the answer my program needs to produce for this input here. And then the second example, this practice make, it's the same word dictionary, but the word 1 is makes and the word 2 is coding, and the distance between them is 1. So makes and coding, the distance between them is 1. Wait a minute, that looks kind of weird. So this is coding and practice 1, 2, 3. And they're saying word. Oh, my bad. The screen is breaking it off. Coding and makes right here. There's 1 distance between these. Thought I was tripping for a second. I was like, what in the world going on with this? But yeah, so that's why this one is 1. And then there's some constraints in here. They're saying word dictionary dot length, which is like the size of the word dictionary, is always going to be at least 2. So we can guarantee there's always 2 things in the dictionary. And it's going to be less than 3 to the 10th to the 4th power, which is just a lot, is basically what that means. And then each word inside of the dictionary, the length of each word is going to at least be 1 character, but not greater than 10 characters. And then it always consists of English letters. Word 1 and 2 are in the dictionary, so they'll always be guaranteed to be somewhere inside of the dictionary. Word 1 and 2, and word 1 and 2 will never equal each other. These constraints are kind of important. A lot of times when I do these problems, some of the constraints don't really matter, but these are pretty important. So yeah. Hopefully I can figure this out again. I just did it. I'm not going to front like I did just do it, but I'm trying to repetition, practice make perfect. So I'm doing this with y'all with a little bit of, people in the background. Kind of emulates kind of like a small emulation of an interview a little bit, but do give you like a little bit more energy, a little bit more pep to do these problems and explain yourself at the same time, because that's the thing that a lot of people get tripped up on in interviews. So the problem stubbed out over here, but first I want to just talk about the solution itself. If you're in an interview, you probably want to talk through the solution first, ask clarifying questions. You may want to ask things about, you may not get these constraints in the interview, so you may want to ask like, are word and 2 always going to be in the dictionary? Are word and 2 ever equal to each other? Those are things that you'd probably ask. Because they probably won't give you all this. It won't look exactly like LeetCode in a real interview. They probably won't give you any of this and expect you to ask for it. And that's why you practice these problems, so you kind of know what to ask for. But then the next thing you kind of want to do is start trying to think through what the solution is, maybe even do some pseudocode. When I look at this problem, the first thing I thought about, the easiest thing I thought is to go to like a brute force solution where, obviously there's an array here, so I'm gonna have to loop through this array. That's basically every problem you have with an array, you most of the time going to need to do some sort of loop. So loop through or traverse basically the array using a loop. So I know I'm going to loop through the word dictionary. And the one thing I know I can do is just simply every time I find word 1 or word 2, then I can loop inside of the loop I'm in. I can loop again to find the other word because these will never be equal. So once I find one of them, then I'm kind of guaranteed to be able to find the other one. So whichever one I find, I just need to search for the other one and then compare the distance and always keep track of the shortest distance I've ever seen. And after I've looped through everything, and once I find one, loop through the other one, by the time I get to the end, I'll have my shortest distance recorded. So every time I find a distance, I'll say, is it shorter than the distance I already have? Keep that, then take that one. If it's not, then keep the shortest distance I already have. At the end of it, I could just return it. The problem with that is when you nest loops like that, your time complexity becomes exponential. Like you're looping one time, but then every item in your loop, you loop again. And so it's exponentially, it's an exponential amount of operations you're doing based on your input. And sorry if I'm not seeing any questions or anything like that. I'm trying to explain at the same time as talk and all that, all that at the same time as read and all that stuff. It's a lot. So, but yeah, that would be the first thing I would think. That would be called a brute force solution. Now in an interview, you can do that solution and sometimes get points and sometimes pass the interview with it. But sometimes you may do that solution and the interview may ask you to you have to tell the interview the time complexity and the space complexity. And if you say that it's like, quadratic or whatever, or exponential, time complexity, they may tell you to optimize the solution and try to find another solution. And so I think the better solution here, or the more optimal solution, would be to still loop the list. But then once you find word 1 or word 2, keep track of the index of where you found word 1 and word 2. And then when you, if you have something for word 1 and word 2, if you have an index, you found both of them, compare the distance and save that in a variable and keep looping the array one time, find all the combinations of word 1 and word 2 and keep recalculating the distance. And every time you calculate the distance, the same as the last solution, you always only keep the shortest distance. If you find a distance that's longer than the shortest one you found, there's no reason in keeping it. You always just want to keep track of the shortest distance. And you keep that in a variable. So you want to find the minimum of like the current distance you're looking at and the distance you have saved, and whichever is lowest is the one you want to keep moving forward with. And so this is going to make more sense when I do the problem, hopefully. Somebody said, I think Treasy said, find the smallest absolute difference between the two numbers in the list, the two indexes in the list, basically to find the distance between their positions, their locations, their indexes. I think you're right on the spot with that. And I think someone on Instagram, Tech Girls Code, what's up? Just solved this in longest word the other day. Yeah, this one is like, it's a premium problem, so not everybody sees it. So I try to do one that not everybody normally sees. You have to be paying for LeetCode to get this problem usually. So, but anyway, let's jump to the code. So, in an interview, I probably do a little more than that. I would maybe even like do some pseudocode because I'd probably have like a text editor somewhere to do that in, or I don't know. It depends on what they're using to interview you with. You could like write some pseudocode in here. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna jump into it. But that's something you probably have to do. And the interviewer will can give you hints if you don't know if you're not in the right track. Depending on the interview, they may help you out. They may not. It just depends. But the best thing is to talk through what you're thinking to at least give them a chance to help you. Just don't rush into just writing something. Really try to talk to the interviewer and ask them, does this solution seem like should I start the solution before you start any solution? And they might just let you start it, or they might say, I don't know about that. Like, think about this and give you a hint that'll help you get on the right track. So I always try to use your interviewer, of course. But this time I happen to know I'm on the right track. So it's up to me now to see if I can code the track that I've started with. So this is like LeetCode stubs out the code for you. I use JavaScript. That's my strongest DSA, like data structures and algorithms, LeetCode language. Me personally, I know some people like Python, some people like C++, but this is the strongest for me personally. And so, I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start a solution. So shortest distance function, have the word dictionary, which is an array. I don't know why they call this. There's something weird about this problem. They call it word dictionary, but it's just an array. So that seems kind of weird that they call it dictionary or whatever. But I don't know. I would have just called it words. Like, I would have just made this be just words. I don't know. Anyway, it's word dictionary in this case. So I know the first thing I want to do, I know I need to loop through the word dictionary. So I'm going to start a loop. And this is how you do that in this language. I is less than or equal to word dictionary length. Then you got like an iterator. So I is my iterator. So I know I want to do that. And then what did I say? Kind of like in my solution, I want to keep track of the indexes of when I find a word 1 and 2, or at least the last one I found. Because there could be more than one. There's nothing about the problem that said there couldn't be more than one. And we even see in our example that makes is where I got tripped up earlier. Makes is in here twice. So you really want to keep the last reference to, as you're looping through, you want to keep the latest reference to either word 1 or word 2 in a variable somewhere. So I know I have this, and the thing I want to check is if the current word I'm on. So if you know your language in JavaScript, how you access where you currently are looping through an array is you use the brackets and you use whatever iterator. And so this equals whatever word I'm currently at in my array. And I basically want to say, is this equal to word 1? If it is, I want to do something. And I also want to check the same thing for word 2. Like, I got to find what my word 1 and 2 is. So is it equal to word 1 is equal to word 2? Like, what do I do inside of here though? So here, like I said, when I was kind of thinking through the solution, I need to save where the index of where I found these words at, so I can compare them later. I can compare the distances between them. And so how I do that is just create some new variables. I'm going to call it word1 index. I'm going to set it to -1 because -1 isn't a valid index. And you'll see why I need that later. I'm going to initialize it to -1. And so here I want to basically say when I find word 1, when I find a word 1, something that equals word 1, I want to set the current index equal to it, which is I is my index of my loop. So that's what I need to set it to. If I find word 2, the index for word 2, because the current word equals word 2, so I know I found it, I set it equal to I. And so now, wait, why is this not? These should turn. It's weird that they're not turning colors. Anyway, now that, let me pull this down. Yeah. Now that I found word 1, word 2, what do I do with these indexes when I have them? So the last thing I would need to do with these is compare them. I need to know if I have the index for word 1 and I have the index for word 2, I need to find the distance between them and save it. Like, the whole problem is find the shortest distance between word 1 and word 2 in this list. So if I have these, then I need to see what the difference is between them. And so I can only do that when I have both of these. So I need to first check. So -1 means I don't have anything in word 1. -2 means I don't have anything in I don't have the location of word 2. But once these get set, I have it. So I need to check first that these are greater than -1. Like they can't be -1. I actually have found two. I have to actually have found word 1 and word 2 to be able to compare anything. So once they're greater than -1, I know they've been set from this. They've been set away from these two, and they've been set here and here as I loop through once I find both of them. And once I find both of them, I know there's something I need to do as far as comparison. So then what do I do here? Like I said, I want to know the difference between word 1 index and word 2 index. That will give me my distance, the current distance between these. And so what I can set is like I can do like a var current distance. I can say current distance is, of course, is the difference between these. So it's the index 1 minus word 2 index. But this could be negative if word 1 is after word 2 as far as index and far as the position in the array. So what you can do in JavaScript and other languages is you can use what's called like an absolute function, or you can like do a multiplication, what is it called? A math formula to do it. But if there's a built-in function, you can do it with the same time complexity. You can just use the built-in function. Here it's called math.absolute in JavaScript. So that will give me the difference in a positive number between word 1 index and word 2 index. And yeah, appreciate y'all watching. Sorry if I'm not seeing the comments. I'm gonna try to answer questions and stuff after. I'm trying to get through this best I can. Hope it's making sense to people. But anyway, so that gives me the current distance. But what I need to do with the current distance? This current distance may or may not be the shortest distance, because I'm gonna have to loop through this whole thing and compare all the times I have word 1, all the times I have word 2, all the different combinations of their positionings, and I'm gonna have to figure out what's the shortest one. How I can do that is create a new variable called let's just call it min distance, and let's set it equal. I guess at the worst case, the longest distance between the words possible in an array is the start of the array to the end of the array, which also equals the length of the array. So what I can do is just initially just start max distance at the length of the array. That's the possible longest distance that can be in between the two words 1 and 2, word 1 and 2. Somebody said, what's the difficulty of this? This is a easy one. Yeah, for people that's just joined, I'll show the problem again. It's called shortest word distance. Basically, there's a dictionary of words, and you need to return distance between these two words, word 1 and 2. The distance between them in the array, you need to return it. So like in this example, it's 3. So yeah, and this is an easy problem. I'm using JavaScript. This is KG.codes, just to give a catch up to people that's joining late, or later. And so yeah, so then we have what I last did was set this min distance. What I can do here is once I have the current distance between word 1 index and word 2 index, I can update min distance. And min distance is going to be equal to, there's also another JavaScript helper function called min, which you can put 2 numbers in it and it will give you the minimum. Basically, it's shorthand for doing a calculation. Like, you could write this out in code. You could say word, current distance less than max distance, then give me back, min distance, then give me back whichever one's short. You can do it in code, or you could use this function. As long as the thing about an interview, using built-in functions, you must know the time complexity of the function. And I know that these are both constant time functions. So I can use them as long as I can calculate them into the time complexity. When an interviewer asks about it, it should be fine for simple functions like this. But you still got to be careful, because you got to know what they do, because the interviewer still might make you like, hey, don't use any built-in functions. And they may make you do that without it. I've been in a lot of interviews, usually functions simple like this, they just let you use them. But you may even want to ask first. I usually just use these and ask questions later. But, to each his own, whatever you want to do. As long as you know what these do and how to code them out manually, it doesn't matter really whether you ask first or not. Like they'll tell you if they want you to do it or not. So, but I'm gonna give advice here. I would actually say use them first unless they tell you not to, because you're not gonna have a lot of time in the interview. So you like you're gonna have 15 minutes to do a problem like this, like an easy problem. You're barely gonna have 15 minutes to do it. And so I'm actually gonna take a stance on that one, like an actual opinion, be opinionated on that one. Anyway, min distance. So what the heck was I doing? Yeah. So here, I want to get what's lower. Is min distance lower or is current distance lower? And I just want to. So if min distance, if I already had a min distance that was shorter than current distance, then I just forget about current distance. If current distance is the new minimum, then I'm going to take that one and update min distance with it. And so after that, it's pretty much done. I'm going to keep updating this min distance, and it'll always have the lowest possible, which will eventually give me my shortest distance. So that means after I get out of this loop, the final thing I can do is return min distance, which is the answer for the whole problem. So, know that was a mouthful. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Somebody say, if anybody won't let you use the math library, you probably don't work there anyway. Yeah. I mean, sometimes interviewers, they can be a little funny, man. It just depends on who you get in the interview, what kind of day they having, what kind of company. Like, I've never been in an interview where they never let me use those kind of functions, but there's some functions like if they ask you to reverse a string, then they're not going to let you use JavaScript, like a JavaScript function to reverse the string. They may ask you don't use they probably tell you up front. But yeah, I agree with you totally. Like that would be weird if they did that, for sure. So, yeah. Anyway, my boy Dexter's on here. He said, "What are you trying to make the output as?" So the output is basically the minimum distance between. So they're gonna give you a word dictionary. They're gonna give you word 1 and word 2, and they want you to find these two things in the word list. And then they want you to find a distance, which is a number between them. Like how many spaces apart are they? So like in this example, coding and practice. Coding, where's practice? Yeah, they're 3 spaces apart if you count from like 1, 2, 3, like that. So that's what my algorithm is doing. So if you're in an interview, what they will have you do, sometimes some companies I've interviewed with, they won't have a runner like LeetCode has. You can't run the code. They'll make you trace the code in front of them manually, either by hand, quote unquote, or they might make you write like notes or whatever to trace the code. You however you want to explain it to them. Most of the time is how it goes, but they want to see how you can explain how your algorithm works. And with that, when you explain it, you might find bugs in it that you can fix, but they really kind of want to know how you think and how you work through it. And so some companies don't even ever run the code that you write. Some of them don't even they just make you do this whole process in a Word document or something. Like they don't not even have anything to do with code. You don't get any help. So like you got to kind of learn, you got to have a strong command of the language you pick. So don't just pick some language that you think they would like. Get very strong on a particular language like I am with Java. That's why I'm using JavaScript for this. I know other languages, but I need a language that I memorized pretty deeply a lot of the API for the language. A lot of the syntax for the language is a better term to use. So, yeah. So anyway, what I would have to do next, which is pretty much the most boring part of me doing these lives, is doing this part. Because I feel like people are just kind of like, what are you doing? But I need to trace through this code. So how do I do that? What I do is usually write comments, and then I put all my variables that I care about, I put them in a comment so I can keep track of them. And so, this one's gonna have a lot. Word index 1. Yeah, this one's gonna be this one might take a little bit, but I'm try to get through it. It's gonna help though. It's gonna help people understand what's going on, and it'll help me catch if I made a mistake. Cause like I don't know, I could have made a mistake with this. You know, you never know. And I, which is I, is right here. So I think I got every single variable taken care of here, except current distance. Actually, I think I'm gonna remove current distance. No, I'm gonna keep it until I get done. So like current distance for readability is good to have this here, but for like optimization as far as running, I probably would just get rid of this and just like put it inside of here. Since the only place current distance is being used is here, I would just copy this into here. If I cared about like, you know, optimizing the runtime of this variable, of this algorithm, I probably wouldn't put this in a separate variable. But anyway, I'm gonna do it for now because it's better. It reads better. So let's use the example. Dang, I wish I had like a short example to use, but I'm just gonna use the example from over here. This, and then this one is coding. So this is the input. So wordsDict, word dictionary, word 1, word 2. That's what gets passed through here. Yeah, and then these are kind of like my own variables that are here. So let's trace through this and keep track of everything. So when we come to this, just line by line is what you would do in an interview. You come to this line, word index is getting set to -1. Word 2 index is getting set to -1. Min distance is getting set to the length of the dictionary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's getting set to 5. And then after that line, we go into our loop. I is gonna start at 0. I actually do want to keep track of, just for more clarity, I want to keep track of one more thing, which is the current word that I'm at. So at word dictionary 0, we pull practice out. So practice is, so when we get here and then we get to this, practice is what this value equals. Does practice equal word 1? No, it doesn't. So we skip over this condition. Does practice, and I probably need to zoom out a little bit now. Let me see if I can do this without screwing stuff up. Yeah. I know it's hard to see, but I had to zoom out a little bit. Does practice equal word 2? So practice equal word 2. Word 2 is practice, so it does equal. So that means word 2 gets set, word 2 index gets set to I. So word 2 index is here, they get set to I. I is currently 0, so you set this to I. So you set this to 0 because it's I is 0. So we pass this line. Now we say, is word index 1 greater than -1? And is word index 2 greater than -1? Well, not both of them. Word index 1 is not greater than -1. It is -1. So we skip this whole if condition. We come back to the top of this loop, I++. So that means I goes up 1 in the loop. That means we get a new word dictionary value. The next one in here is makes. And so we get makes. And then we say, is makes equal to word 1 or word 2? Makes is not equal to either of these, coding and practice. So we just skip everything here. We know this didn't change because these are still the same. So now we know we come all the way back to the start of the loop again. I'm going to try to speed up here. That turns to 2. That means the next word we're looking at in our loop is perfect. So you set this to perfect. Is perfect equal to word 1 or is perfect equal to word 2? No, coding and practice are the words. So we know we skip everything down here again and come back to the top of the loop. This gets turned to 3. Our third word, this is where it maybe starts to get a little bit interesting again. Finally, this gets set to coding. Is coding equal to word 1? Yes, coding is word 1. And so now we know we need to set word index 1 or word 1 index equal to I. Well, I is currently 3, so we're going to set that to 3. So now we got word 1 index equal 3. We got word 2 index equal 0. Now is We still have to check if word index equals to 2. We know that's not the case. Now, is word one index greater than -1 and word 2 index greater than -1? Yes, it's 3 and 0 right now. So now we go into this. So now we get current distance is the absolute value of word 1 index minus word 2 index. Word 1 index is 3. Word 2 index is 0. So that would 3 minus 0 is 3, is still 3. Absolute value of that, since it's not negative, is positive, so it's just 3. So we set in current distance to 3. Now we say, shoot, I guess I do need to keep current distance in here since it's one of my. So now it's 3. Put that in there. Now we're saying, what's the minimum between min distance and current distance? Min distance is 5, current distance is 3. So now we're going to set the minimum between those, which is 3. So now the new value of min distance is 3. And so then we come out of this and we go to the top of our loop again. It's not less, you have to check if it's less than the length. And so we get to 4, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is makes. This is our last thing that we're doing. So that's makes. We come here, is makes equal to word index? No. Is makes equal to word 1? No. Is it equal to word 2? No. Then we get here. These are still, this is still true because these are still the same as they were before. So this is probably maybe some sort of optimization step you can make to not repeat the same comparison again. It's probably something you could do to optimize this. But basically, we're going to come back through this again with the same values and we're going to like also set this again to 3. So this is a little bit of wasted optimization. I mean, it's wasted, operations, I'd say. But, and it could get worse if like this dictionary is really long. But I'm going to keep it there for now. And we're going to just run with this for now and maybe try to optimize it later. Or maybe not. I don't know. Just depends on how I feel. But yeah, but at least I want to acknowledge this for sure, because this is something that an interviewer might ask about for sure. Or they may not. It just depends. But you at least need to be knowledgeable of when that happens. So that when repeated operations are happening. So like this is kind of unneeded. How you would check for that? The problem is, to check for that, you'd have to check somehow that these didn't change. So you'd have to like almost like keep another variable to make sure to check whether either one of these changed or not, or I don't know. It's a little bit weird. Like I feel like you'd add more operations just to check that, then it may be even worth. So it's kind of arguable there maybe. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going. So yeah, min distance will stay the same, but it will get recalculated into 3 here. And so after that, you at the end of your loop, so you actually fall out of the loop and you return min distance. What is min distance right now? It's 3. And over here we see the example 1 was the one I was running. We see the output is 3. So basically, from tracing my code manually, I get the right answer. I return 3. So that's a good sign. And sometimes in a real interview, you would be done. Like they wouldn't make you run it. You'd be done. They may ask you some more questions. No, I'm lying. I'm tripping. You would not be done. They would probably ask you for the time complexity and space complexity. So let me talk about that. I forgot about that. So for this, let's talk about time complexity and big O notation. This is something you'd have to learn before you interview, but it's basically related to the size of your input. So here, the size of my input is the size of this dictionary and the length of these words, like how long these 2 words are. We know that they can't be greater than 10, but it's kind of arbitrary. So we know they're at least 10 at the worst case. So the thing is, how many operations are we doing in reference to our input? Well, these are constant operations. It doesn't matter what the size of our input is. These operations will always happen at their same rate. It doesn't matter what the size of the input is. This is where the input affects the number of operations, because the however long this array is how many times this loop is going to run. So we know that already time complexity is already big O of n as far as linear time in just running the loop of the word dictionary, and we're running it one time. And if you remember, the bad solution I talked about earlier was that we were doing like a nested loop, and that would mean it'd be running like exponential number of times. But at least we got it down to just running through the dictionary one time in order to be able to figure this out. This is a tricky part of the optimization that people could miss. I almost missed it earlier today when I was looking at this. When you compare strings in certain languages like this, what happens is internally what it's doing is testing each character in the string to see if they equal each other. So worst case, big O notation and big O, time complexity is about measuring the worst case based on the scale and how your algorithm scales with the size of your input. Worst case, we're going to have to check every single word or letter, in each of these words and compare them to make sure they equal. And think about the case when they don't equal. That means think about the case when they do equal. That means you actually did have to check every single letter to make sure they equal. Like if cat equals cat, if you had to check it like as a program, you couldn't see it. Like a program can't really see it. It's checking character by character, and that is a operation. Each character it checks. It says is C equal to C? Is A equal to A? Is T equal to T? Okay, yes, these two things equal each other. So this actually is a number of operations that is bound to the size of the input line of these words, the input size of these words, like how long they are. So actually, the big O notation time complexity of this is a little more complicated than a lot of the problems that I've done. Is actually big O of n times the length of these two words, because I got to look at this word and I have to look at this word to see if they're equal. And so it's actually every time I loop every iteration of my loop, you have to multiply that by the length of these words, because I have to compare. This has to compare every character, whether each character in the word is equal to another character, worst case. So it's actually big O of n times, it's called it M. It's called the length of these words M. The, like worst case length of word 1 plus word 2, because you actually have to check both of them. And I think because this is and I think it might actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because if this was like something arbitrary, I think it might just be like M. But now that I'm saying that this is 10, I feel like worst case 20, it would be 20 operations. So it actually, now I'm thinking about it, it's like worst case is 20. It actually might be like M times 20, N times 20, which actually might just be N. So I don't know. That's what I think it actually would be this. But I looked at this earlier and they actually said it was M times N, or N times M. But actually, I don't know if I actually agree with that, only because of this constraint of saying like at worst case, the length of the words can only be 10. So it's finite. It ain't, it doesn't scale infinitely or whatever. But I guess if it's less than, I don't know, man. That's kind of confusing. But I guess this is finite too, though. So it's just extremely large. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it actually doesn't matter what that constraint is. I guess it still is. But yeah, you see how confusing this stuff can be. But I think it still is n times x. It doesn't matter what the length, because if these are 10 or if they're, it just whatever they are is the word is what the time complexity it would be. Whatever variable the length of these it equals to. So whether it's 20, whether it's 10, whether it's 17, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's an interesting one. And as far as space complexity is what type of data structures we use that grew or, fell with the size of the input. Here we didn't use an extra array, or we didn't use a hash map or an object or anything. So here it would just be big O of 1, like for space complexity. You can say space and say big O 1, which is just constant. And then time is time. Yeah, big O 1, which is constant. Because the only thing we did was just set constant values for each of these variables here. There's nothing. We didn't repopulate this. We didn't need any additional data structure to hold our array or words or anything like that. So it don't matter how large these are. The space we use in this algorithm will always basically be the same. And that's why that basically means it's constant space. So, man, that was a lot to say. That's basically it. So the last final thing I would do, you explain that to the interviewer. Now, if they may be using something you can run the code on. Fortunately, on LeetCodes, you can run the code. So I'm pull this little thing up here and run it. See if I got it right. So yeah, I got accepted for case 1, which this is the case I traced to get 3. So they said I got it right too. Case 2 should get 1 back. Expected 1 and got 1 back. So that worked. And then you also, and its runtime probably isn't that great, but you also I can show something here. So you also can run this against other submissions on LeetCode.com. Take it with a grain of salt. It ain't a perfect measurement, but it kind of tells you what your runtime was and what your space usage was, and compares it to other people that use LeetCode or done this problem on LeetCode successfully. Wait, how the heck did it go? Okay, well, I guess it's better than I thought. Beats 97% of users with using JavaScript and beats 97%. This doesn't seem right. That seems wrong. But I don't know. That seems too good to be true. That I beat 97%. Yeah, that seems kind of weird. I'm gonna take a screenshot of it anyway, because I'm probably post this later. So at least it'll look like I did good, even if that's a bug. But yeah, usually it's not ever that good. So that's weird, but I'll take it. Take the win where I can get them, I guess. So yeah, anyway, basically LeetCode saying I got the problem right and at pretty good space and runtime. Let me know what you guys think. Somebody said, "Nah, you're just that good." I appreciate that, man. I wish I was like that on every interview. I wish it was just like, killing it like that in a real interview every time. I have a lot of leverage for negotiation, all that stuff, man. I'll be killing it. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate y'all saying that. Appreciate you watching. I hope this made sense to you. This stuff can be hard to explain, which is why I get on here and do these, because it helps me become a better with algorithms, data structures and algorithms. It helps me, when I'm not interviewing right now, but when I do interview, it kind of helped me stay practiced and to explaining myself to other people, and just being, you doing this, man, it's a lot of energy, and like you're already nervous in the interview, and you just like, this kind of helps me to kind of just like get in that mode of like doing that. So I try to do these every Friday. I might miss a week or two, but I try to do these every Friday. And yeah, I mean, if people have questions, I try to answer them now since I'm not focused on the code. Somebody Polytech said, "Man, I need to be on this." Hey, I used to be like a LeetCode, like data structure and algorithm, just like I hated them. I was like, I'm never going to do these. But one day I just decided, like, man, I'm not going to let something stop me from, I'm not going to let something have that over me. Like I can't do it, or like I can't learn it. I had been doing programming professionally for a number of years before that, but it was always something in the back of my mind. Like, I can't really do these data structures and algorithms thing, even though I've been working successfully in the field for a long time. If I ever did want to get a job that required lead coding, I would just have to completely avoid those kind of interviews. And I was like, I didn't want to have that over my head. So eventually, a couple years ago, I started practicing. It felt like I'd never be able to pass an interview at first. And then eventually I got to the point where I was able to pass, like FANG level interviews and some mid-tier and some, all different, small companies to mid-tier to big tier, like the large tier companies like Amazon and, Facebook, Instagram, stuff, not Instagram, but Facebook and, or Meta, whatever they call it now. Like that level of interview, like to those companies. And so, it didn't feel like something I could do at one point in my life. And so to get there and be able to do it was like a big thing, So like I encourage anybody who ain't started on these or is in the middle of it to just keep going. I'm not an expert by far, but I have had some success in it on interviews. I still got a lot to learn, which is why I'm still practicing these. And you forget, like I stopped after I interviewed, I was burnt out. I stopped for probably like 6 months and forgot a bunch of stuff. So I'm doing these again. I'm back to doing easies, man, just to kind of get back in the rhythm. And then I'll go to mediums and then I'll do some more hards again. And so, yeah, man, it's a process. But, encourage you to get into it. Yeah, I'm trying to be more well-rounded and, like, just be, I don't want anything to trip me up in interviews. I want to be able to go in there and do the system design. I want to be able to go and show my experience and my knowledge of what I've gained in the field. I want to be able to do the little coding challenges that they throw. Do you prefer JavaScript over other languages or no preference? Right now I'm language and tech agnostic, so I like a lot of stuff. Like I try to pick the best tool for the job, and I try to use different things and be willing to learn different things. But if I had to say, I'd say right now JavaScript is probably my favorite, just due to me doing all this leak code and stuff with them, and it's actually the language I'm using mostly day to day at my day job. So it just happens to just be kind of my favorite for right now. But it used to be C#. Like when I first got my first programming job, I was doing C# every day. And so C# was the thing. So it's, it is what it is. Somebody said Elixir Master Race. I feel you. You should record these and post them to YouTube. I do. I don't take these because I talk too long on these. But what I do is I go after this, I'll re-record it shorter and put it on my YouTube. I actually put it on TikTok too. So you can see on TikTok, I have a shorter version of I just go straight to the solution. I just like, this is the problem. This is how you do it. I explain time, complexity, all that kind of stuff. But it's like 2-3 minutes. I put it on my YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I put it everywhere. So I do that. So you can go look on my channel and go in the past and see a bunch of different problems that I've already done over the probably last 2 or 3 years. I need to do more though. I'm trying to do them every week now. So you should record. Yeah, I already answered that. You should be recording the YouTube. Yeah, I already answered that. Is programming jobs really programmers or just Stack Overflow? Let's be real. I mean, it's not as much Stack Overflow as that question is making it seem. I say that. I mean, it is a lot of Googling in Stack Overflow and stuff. Like you do look up a lot of syntax and solutions, but a job way deeper than that. It's a lot of, because when you work at a company, the company code base is private and the way their stuff is. Yeah, I know you're just messing with me, man. But like some people may think that they like, they don't do nothing. They just use ChatGPT every day. Like ChatGPT, it just doesn't have access to a private code base of a company. And so there's always going to be stuff nuances that just can't be covered by, the internet, and that you have to figure out. And it's more than just coding. There's a lot of other stuff like documentation and researching problems, whatever industry. Like the thing about programming is like, whatever, like you may be a programmer for Ford, you may be a programmer for Verizon, you may be a programmer for Facebook. Like it's always a cross sector with another industry that you even got to learn about. So it's just so much to learn, man. Like it's crazy. Yeah, a lot of companies won't even allow you to use ChatGPT just because they don't know. It's a lot of stuff like they're trying to figure out like if ChatGPT writes your code, do they own it? And the companies don't want to have to deal with the legalities of that. And, the other reverse way, do you want to train their language model with code Like, let's say I got a problem in my code base at work, and I take a big snippet of the code and put it in Chat GPT. It's going to train off that data, and it's going to have that data. And a lot of companies don't want you doing that. So my company, well, I ain't gonna say nothing about my company. Actually, I ain't gonna say nothing. No stance. None of my thoughts are my own. I don't know what they like to do, what they want to do, nothing about them. Like, they have nothing to do with this channel. Nothing. Like, at all. If anybody's watching. Is your TikTok name? Yeah. KG.codes on everything. TikTok, Instagram. I'm streaming right now. TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. I might have forgot one, but yeah, I'm using this thing, Restream. Just lets you restream across all the different channels. The only thing, the TikTok is the only thing I got like this little camera here because I don't have a stream key with TikTok yet, but hopefully they give me one soon. Let's see. Yeah, everybody says smart. Yeah, man, I ain't trying to lose the job. I need the job. Do you have your projects on the GitHub? Yeah, I do. All my so I do a lot of side projects too. You may see on my account. I post about them on my social media, but they're all if some of them I have them private if I'm allowed to, and some of them I have them public. Or the opposite. Some of them I have it public if I'm allowed to. Like, I do a lot of client projects, so if they allow me to have it public, I do. If they have some reason for me not, like they don't want their code out there, then I put it on my private, set it to private or whatever. But there's a lot of stuff on there. Should I get into web app development or data analyst in your opinion? I'm still deciding my career. Man, I really can't tell you. I would say whatever. I would dig into whatever's most interesting to you, because it's going to be difficult to get into and learn and stay motivated. Motivation is a lot of the issue for a lot of folks trying to learn the code or learn to do learn big data and stuff like that. So I'd say to pick what you're feeling like go with your gut, what you're most interested in, and don't feel like you can get stuck. Like, if you enter the tech industry, you can pivot between different things, because it'll be easier once you start to pivot to the other one. If you kind of get in the one and you're like, I don't know about this, like you get into programming and you don't like it and you switch, or vice versa. But I would just say to start with what you think will be easier for you to break in with and will keep you most motivated, most interesting. Because some people hate coding. Like, they just boring to them and they quit. They give up in the middle of trying to learn. And I understand if it's like pulling teeth to you, then you're not going to stay motivated on your own. And even in school. Do you use a pipeline for your projects or just have local testing? Do I use a pipeline or just have... So I'm guessing you mean like a CI/CD pipeline, including unit test or automated test or, end-to-end test. Some of my projects, I definitely use CI/CD for all the projects that I can. I do a lot of mobile apps, so the CI/CD there, you got to use a lot of third-party tools and stuff, and I don't really do it there much. But as far as like all my web development projects, I have like CI/CD set up through GitHub Actions. I don't do a lot of, it's kind of bad to say, but I don't do a lot of unit testing on my own personal projects. I do so much of that at work, man. It's like my personal projects, they're usually on the smaller side and there's less risk. Like I have more, there's less, if something breaks, I have more leeway and it's more forgiving if something breaks, that I can fix it really, and I can move really fast. At work, I'm not gonna say what we have, but a lot of companies have monthly cycles, or there's a lot of red tape to deploying things. The bigger the company, the worse it is. And so when you make a mistake, the mistake is super costly. On my own stuff, when I make a mistake, I can fix it in 5 minutes and deploy a new version. I can move at a really fast iterative pace. And so I don't think it's worth the time to spend. I'd rather move fast, make mistakes, and fix it than to spend a lot of time writing unit tests. But at a big company, if you have a slow deployment process with a lot of red tape and you make a mistake, it might have to sit there for a month before you can get an update out safely. And so you do want a lot of unit testing, end-to-end testing. It's worth the investment. It costs money to do unit testing, end-to-end testing, and time. If it costs time, it costs money automatically. But yeah, so it's just a trade-off, man. I mean, do I think you should have them always? Yeah, in the perfect world. But do I think it's always worth it for small projects or projects that you can move really fast on? Probably not. And that wasn't even your question, but I just decided to go there anyway. My bad. Lots of code review too. Yeah, appreciate that comment. Only 2 possible distances. That was when I was doing the problem. Find when you get both in the min. Yep. I think I answered all the Instagram questions. Let me see on TikTok. I'm a first year in college. I'm a first year in college going for comp sci cybersecurity. It's a good place to be in. Good place to be in. I mean, hey, I'm biased. I recommend it. It's a good livelihood. You know, you're going to work hard. It's a lot of long days and long nights sometimes, but for the most part, to me, it's a rewarding career. You're going to feel good about what you're doing. And you're going to be, compensated properly for it. So I'm glad you're in that space, man. Glad you're joining it too. Like, glad you're joining the space. Might look into that. Thanks for that info. No problem. Recipe as a service. Oh, cool. That's the first time I heard that. RAAS, like instead of SaaS, like RAS company. Recipe. Dang, that's pretty cool. Samuel 481. Appreciate you mentioning that. Let me see if any more things I can answer. I built a website to randomly generate recipes and add. Oh, okay, that's what you were talking about. Recipes as a service. That's kind of cool, man. It's a cool little name for it, though, for sure. I like to make my own with YAML files and don't like the pre-built ones for a lot of them. Yeah. On GitHub Actions, I think you're talking about deployment pipelines. Yeah. For GitHub Actions, yeah, I usually piece together some of the stuff I search for on the internet and some of the pre-built ones and just change stuff to the way I like it. I just, I might copy and paste to save some time. But yeah, most of the YAML files and process I built have been, I'd say, I got like mostly my own. They're mostly stuff that I kind of tweaked to make it to my liking. I think I need to start doing projects on the side. Yeah, for sure. Like, along with your learning, whether you're in school, whether you're self-teaching or you're like in a boot camp, always do some side projects and try to do them as real as possible. Try to actually put them out, and see the deployment all the way through. That's an invaluable experience to have when you go into interviews, and it will help you learn at an accelerated rate when you're doing something fun. Because sometimes just learning in school, especially in college, they're going to do a lot of theoretical stuff. It's not going to feel like it applies directly. Like, you're not going to see the fruit of what you're learning just yet in school. You're going to be like, man, I know there's apps and websites out there that people program, but now I'm learning about, big O notation, and it doesn't connect. So if you do side projects on your own in connection with the learning, and it takes time, man. It's hard to kind of do all of that, but I recommend it. I really recommend it more for the self-taught in the boot camp because they have a little bit more time outside of the stuff that they're doing. Unless you got a job and you're doing a boot camp at the same time. But for people in school, man, I would say just focus on school only and get the grades and pass the classes. Don't spend, unless you just knocking your classes out the park, you got free time. Like, then, yeah, jump on it. But, like, if you feel like you struggling at all or going to be stressed out at all with your classes, just focus on the classes. You will always have time after school to, or summer, or, week. I guess, like, summer weekends, summer breaks, school breaks, you can definitely work on projects, though. Let me not try to, control the, make time for what you can, for sure. So data queries in Python interest me more, but on the marketing side. So yeah, you can enter tech. I think you're saying more on the marketing side. You mean like programming marketing solutions, or you mean like you actually want to work on the marketing side in a tech company? Because that's an option too. You can work in a tech company and not be technical. You can enter the tech industry and not be technical. You may like the tech industry, but not want to do programming or do any kind of technical work, that's fine too. But you still might want to learn at a high level, some technical concepts in order to enter the tech industry. So I understand that too. How long have you been coding professionally? I say about 10 years. I'm older, like in my 30s. So yeah, I've been doing it for like 10 years. So it's been a good journey. Um, just started doing lead code recently. That's what's so crazy. I mean, I didn't need it. I didn't need it back then. I did a lot of interviews. No interviews asked me any lead code questions back then. That was kind of something that came along after I was already working. And then I had to kind of go back and learn. I learned it in school, but I mean, I forgot all that stuff. After like working in the industry, you don't use that stuff every day unless you're working in a specific job that needs to make use of it to a high degree. What I was working in didn't, and a lot of probably like most jobs don't need that be used every day. Those optimizations usually are lower. You know, we usually program at a higher level with our languages. We're not down to the level of like needing to do that. Like, there's a lot of built-in functions that will handle stuff like that, but they're good concepts to know to be tested in interviews. And there have been times when where I needed to optimize the runtime complexity of my algorithms. Like, there's been a lot of times when that has happened, but I wouldn't say it's to the level that you go to on lead code. I wouldn't say that, but there have been times when it's like, oh, we're looping here and updating a database in the loop every time. Maybe we can optimize this to not have to loop, exponential number of times here, but only have to loop 6 times here. Or, like, we make optimizations to save our resources. That's why they ask these kind of questions kind of like at a core level, is like, because optimizations save companies, hundreds, thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, if there's really big companies where, like, you say you save, 600 terabytes of like memory in a data center. Like, you may save a company $1 million a year or something like that. Like, so it does matter. Like time complexity and space complexity. So yeah. Yep. Learning big old notation is interesting in making stuff more optimal. Yeah, and if you learn the notation, then you're doing code reviews, you can bring it up. Man, somebody probably hate you if you brought that up in a code review. If you actually said it, like, I don't think it's rare I've seen somebody actually say in a code review, like, dang, dude, this is a big old n squared, man. You need to get this down to big old n linear time. Like, they usually would just say, hey, you can make this more optimal if you take this loop out of here or something like that. But yeah, that'd be funny if I ought to start doing that at work, just joking. See if somebody get mad. Word dictionary or something. Wonder what leak code question. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, shoot. Maybe I should what I used to do, and I'm tripping because I stopped doing that. I used to put the problem like right here. So I'm about to show y'all what I'm doing. Dang, why can't I copy and paste this? The world? Anyway, I'm gonna stop. Yeah. I used to put the problem right here in the comments so people could see when I'm sitting here talking later. I've already did the problem. I'm sorry if you just joined. I already did the problem already. I'm just talking afterward. But yeah, that's the problem. It's not dynamic programming problem. It's just an easy problem. Well, I don't know, man. Maybe it is like an easy I don't know. I don't think it's dynamic programming. I haven't really done much in dynamic programming. Like, it's crazy because I did all these interviews, and I did like an Airbnb interview, Amazon, like a bunch of big companies. None of them asked any dynamic programming. I think Google is mostly focused on that. That's what I heard. All my research, it seems like Google is the ones asking that. Mostly asking those. Not that you can't get caught at another company with them, but so I use this thing called Algo Monster that teaches you all the different patterns. I recommend that to anybody learning DSA. It teaches you the patterns in order of how much they get asked at different companies. And I think that was like the last one. So I'll probably start on that maybe, I don't know, pretty soon here. But I think I've done some dynamic programming problems, but I just didn't know that they were dynamic programming. I was just doing them. Let's see. I can teach you how to use computers, copy and paste. I don't know. I'm out of question there. Oh yeah, you should check NeetCode's DP list. Taught me some great problems. Yeah, I was on NeetCode. Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff on NeetCode. I don't know if I did any. I probably did, but that probably was when I was really grinding for interviews. I did a bunch of problems, like hard ones, and so it probably was some mixed in there that I just don't remember, because that was like in 2020. The last time I really interview grind was 2020, like late last year. So it's been about a year since I really grinded. But now I'm like I'm more or less now just trying to stay a little bit sharp, and then when I do go back need to grind again, I won't be starting from like just no memory. I'll kind of like already be kind of in the practice of this. Cause like I think the first time you learn the DSA is the hardest time, and then it's more about like refreshing it, before you interview, just making sure you're like snap on it, so you can, cause you got to be fast. That's the thing. That's the one thing. You can learn it and know it, but like you got to get over the nerves of interviewing, and then interviewing in this way. It's one of the hardest type of interviews, cause it's like you getting tested so difficultly. You can't talk your way out of it. You can't make yourself comfortable with just talking BS. Like, it's like right or wrong. Like, can you code this or not? Are you coding it right or you not? Like, they try to, it is some good interviewers that will test you with these problems and actually be testing for how you think and how you learn. But a lot of it is just knowing what to do and being right. Like, it's still hard. The good interviewers actually won't care if you're right or wrong, and they'll actually be testing you for how you think and how you work through the problem, whether you get it right or wrong or not. That's what I do when I interview people with these problems. But not every interview is going to do that. You're not going to have that benefit of the doubt. It's not benefit of the doubt. You're not going to have that luxury with every single interview. Some interviewers they just came from a meeting. They trying to get through it. They throw this problem at you. They ain't trying to help you. You get it wrong, you just got it wrong. Like, that's literally how some interviews, they're not going to smile. They're not going to, you know what I mean? Anyway. But yeah, somebody said, you should know some HTML and CSS though. I'm probably like late on that conversation. What's the easiest language to learn as a starter, but not HTML and CSS? I suggest Python or JavaScript. For two reasons. Well, Python I suggested because it's less verbose than a lot of other languages. It's easier to learn the syntax for somebody new, to learn the concepts of programming for somebody new. JavaScript's a similar way. It's a little bit more verbose than Python, but not nearly as much as like Java and C# and languages like that, and C++. I think if you want to get into web development, HTML and CSS is like you should start with that before even a programming language. Like, those are markup languages, and CSS is like style sheets. HTML is a markup language. CSS is a styling language or styling sheet. I mean, you can call it a language or not. Some people got different opinions on that. I don't know. Java made more sense than Python. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I'm just saying what I suggest for new people is Python or JavaScript. That's what I suggest. Now, can you, like, my first programming language was C++, which is, it's an older language, and it is hard. I think it's harder to learn than like JavaScript and Python, but there's value to learning those like statically typed languages, because you learn a lot of like OOP concepts. You learn a lot of like really strong programming concepts that make it easier to learn other languages. And like Java was one of my first. That was like my second language I started after. So you can start with those too. It's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong. I'm just going with what I suggest to just a plain newbie. The reason I suggest those, like JavaScript especially, is because this ease of access. JavaScript runs in a browser. Even non-technical people kind of know how a browser works at a basic level. Java runs on servers. Basic person ain't using a server every day. The basic person is using a browser every day, which JavaScript is running in. You can go and open a browser console and you can start writing JavaScript in a browser that you already own today. Inside, you can just shoot. I mean, I can do it right now. I can just open the console and turn or open the dev tools and turn the console, and I can start, writing JavaScript, right now. So it's like, that's why I say it's because then I can write this JavaScript on this page, and I can make along with HTML and CSS, you can see what you're doing with your JavaScript. You can write a page that uses JavaScript to update a number every 5 seconds. And some people learn visually like that, and it's a little easier than just having code that's running in a console. And yeah, you can console that out, and see stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's to run Java, you need to like actually, have the JVM running or JVE running. It's just more barrier to entry. I feel like everybody has a browser already. It's easy to understand. And then once you get that concept, you can go to the back-end languages like Java, C#, C++, and learn how those run and what they getting run for. And so, but there's no hate against Java. Like C# is like my top 2 language. Like Java is probably like top 5 for me. So like I love all these different languages. I'm just suggesting what I think somebody should learn first. Yep, Java Spring Boot can be learned for back-end web development for sure. Bro, I went on LeetCode with no coding skill. My head was spinning. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It is, man. When I first got on there, man, it was crazy, dude. Like, I didn't think I'd ever be able to interview with him, man. The easy problems was like hard. Like I couldn't get through them. Even now, like I'll run into an easy problem every now and then. I'm like, what the heck is this, man? So like it's still, the one thing I say is like, when you interviewing, go online, blind.com or the Blind app, glassdoor.com. Actually, then you find list of the best problems to do. Don't just try to do a bunch of random problems. Somebody recommended NeetCode. It's called NEET code. It's like a play on LeetCode. It's called NeetCode list 75. I think it's a list for 100. That gives you kind of the common problems that a lot of interviewers are going to ask. You can start with and focus on those. And then once you have an interview scheduled, then you can actually go look up that company's interview. Just like somebody said, NeetCode was great for Google interviews. Yeah, for sure. And like one thing is I do is on here is, and I'm probably gonna get off here in a little while, but can I find it? Dang, I kind of didn't want to leave that page, but dang, I gotta remember where it is. It's like a company. Yeah, I think it's here. Amazon. So let's say we want to do an Amazon. Yeah, this. So like, if you have LeetCode Premium, you can go pick a company, and let me put this in the middle. You pick a company like Amazon. It will give you this algorithm. Somehow they update this page every week with the problems the company's asking, and then you can click this filter here and order it by frequency. And then before your interview, you can go and do these different problems that give you a better picture of like, what the interview is going to ask. And let me tell you, like, this may seem like too good to be true, but man, I interviewed with a lot of companies last year. And when I tell you, almost every time, at least one of the problems came from this list, ordering this list like that. I promise you. At least one of the problems. Now, this skews toward bigger companies. Like a smaller company may not be on there like this. But like the bigger companies, man, at least it was a variation of the problem or it was the exact same problem from this list. And then I combine that with Glassdoor.com. Go on Glassdoor.com and look up, interviews on there. Find what people have been asking for the interview that you're doing. Blind.com or the Blind app. Go on there. Search for your interview for the company, see what questions being asked. I put that all in the sheet and compare with this. And I just did all them before every interview. I would just do every interview problem I could find that was related to that company. And then when I got in the interview, it was kind of like a little cheat code. Like it was like they get you with some stuff that you ain't seen before, but like it was like at least over half the problems, like I had seen some variation of them. So that's a little trick. I made a video about it on my channels, on my social stuff before. Looking at those 3 places. But that's sort of an interview hack. But that means nothing if you didn't go and learn the foundations first, somewhere. And maybe you went and did NeetCode. Maybe you use Algo Expert or Algo Monster. Those are tools to help you learn the foundations of data structures and algorithms, the different patterns, help you learn pattern recognition so you can recognize the patterns in the problems instead of trying to memorize all the problems. And so, yeah, I'm not currently interviewing. I'm just practicing these problems just to stay fresh and to, of course, have content to post. I post a lot of programming content, but it helps me practice, stay fresh. I actually perform these as interviews. I'm not going to say nothing about my company, but when I have to interview for my company, we do LeetCode problems. I can't say that. And so I actually have to perform these. So this gives me more stuff to use in the interviews and stuff like that too. So yeah, what's my YouTube name? It's KG.codes too. KG.codes probably. Either type KG.codes or KG.codes. You'll find me like everywhere. All the different social channels. If you want, because you can watch me somewhere else too. I stream on all the different ones. I post content on all the different channels. Amazon will ask a lot of graph and string problems. Yeah, man. I interviewed with them. A lot of string problems. Shoot. I mean, did I have one number problem? It was a number problem, like an integer array problem too. It was like I can't remember if it was like a map problem. Like you had to use the solution, you had to use a hash map. Then I remember they had a graph problem where you had to do you had a document tree. So like think about a folder structure tree where you have all these folders, subfolders. I had to basically write an algorithm. It was I can't remember what algorithm what name of the algorithm would be, but I had to have an algorithm to build out a document tree based on the structure that they gave you, which was a pretty cool problem. But luckily, I had saw the problem in some form. Like I found it on Glassdoor or somewhere I found it. I can't remember even where I found it, but I did the problem, a form of it. And so when I got to the interview, I wasn't completely surprised, but it was a lot of it that I had to kind of do with intuition. But at least I wasn't completely just blown out of the water. Like I didn't know what the heck was going on. Like I never seen nothing like that before. That's how you don't want to get caught. Like you never want to get caught like just knowing nothing. Because if you feed the interviewer something, they usually will feed you something back. Like if you know all the different patterns of problems, like you can go through your little list and just be like, okay, should I use sliding window? Like you can, you got to kind of play the game. Like, I wonder if I should use sliding window here. Or I wonder if I should use binary search. Like you just go through your list of like different algorithms that 2-pointer technique, like all the different techniques that That's why it's good to learn those techniques. And so you go through that list and the interviewer might stop you and you're like, oh yeah, sliding window. What would you do with the sliding window? And they're going to play the game with you a little bit. But like when they say that, listen to them. Like you just sitting there naming stuff off, and then it's like, the sliding window is interesting. What would you do with that? And then you may pursue that, and then now okay, now I know I'm on the right track. Now I can write if you've learned the core foundation, like these different algorithms and these different patterns. Now you at least know that I'm at least gonna be able to write the sliding window algorithm because I know the algorithm. And now I just need to figure out how to use it in this problem. But if you're able to write that algorithm, you getting some kind of points already. And they may be able to help you to the solution. So that's why it's good to just like get your foundation straight. Look at NeetCode, look at common problems. Because it is some problems that you're just going to have to memorize. Like it is like don't never let anybody tell you that you ain't got to memorize nothing. That's what learning is memorizing. Like you just memorizing stuff for interviews, like for these type of interviews. So anyway, yeah, somebody, Tasha McKell, appreciate it. She's saying that, said, love that tip. Good interviewer is listening for some threads to pull you along. Yeah, a good interviewer would do that. Sometimes you get a bad one, but most of them will try to help you along. They don't want to see you do bad most of the time because it makes their job easier when you do good and you just speed through it. It makes their job easier. Now, some of them got a little complex where if you speed through it, they try to just hit you with something harder. Like, oh, it's too easy for him. Like, but I'm like, dude, if it's too easy for me, what's the problem? It's not, you're not trying to make it hard and make me go through something difficult. If I'm killing it, that means this is who you need to hire. This is good. Like, so I don't know why some programmers have that in their mind when they interview other people. They try to put them through the gauntlet that they was try to keep through the gauntlet that they had to get put through, which is stupid. But anyway, man, I think my voice probably about to go out. So, yeah, I like doing this though. I like talking, connect with each other too in the chat. If I've seen some people talking and stuff, connect with each other on the different channels with each other. You can follow me on different, channels. Like, I'm on YouTube. I'm streaming right now, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, all these different channels. I post content, programming content, tech content on these channels. I'm gonna try to do these at least once a week, this type of interview thing. LeetCode interview problems, DSA interview problems. And so, yeah, follow me if you want. Connect with me, DM me if you got questions or just want to, ask anything. And good luck to you, whatever your goals is, whatever you're trying to do. I just say, just keep going. It's possible. I'm definitely living proof that, like, you can, learn the code. You can work in the industry a long time. You can have a successful career in this. You can, even after being in the industry a long time, you can learn stuff like this. Some people may be, seniors in the game trying to get into LeetCode, and some people may be fresh out of college or not even had their first job trying to learn LeetCode to get their first job. And so, more senior you get, the less LeetCode you have to do. But these bigger companies, they like to ask a lot still. It don't matter how senior you get. But it is what it is. Like, I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. I'm gonna hop off.